One Way Out, an enthusiastic, if not entirely accurate description. Greetings and welcome once again to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Today we are talking about Andor Episode 10, One Way Out. This is the third in the series of the prison episodes, and it's, again, a fantastic episode. And I want to call out really two performances. One in particular, though, Andy Serkis as Kino has been a powerhouse in all three of these episodes, and he's putting forth award-level performances on this. It's just Star Wars Andor, but man, he is not holding back. Also, Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen, again, really raising the bar. And this show has been good. This hasn't been a mediocre show. This has been, I've talked about the pacing, but they've really found their lane, and man, it's been really, really good. Again, if you haven't watched the show, you can pick up kind of with episode 8, watch the recap and get the idea of what's going on and move forward. But this has been another very tense but very good episode of a good program. We picked up this week, remember last week, they learned in the prison that a prisoner from level 4 who had been released ended up back on episode 2. This was a mistake. He should have gone to another prison facility. What they realize is no one's getting out. Your count doesn't mean anything. You're going to die in prison. And this changes the attitude of Kino, played by Andy Serkis, who is the floor leader who's just counting down his days, thinking he's going to be done soon. Well, and he realizes he's not. This episode is broken down into 3 different areas. There's the prison, which we just talked about. There is the dealings with Mon Mothma. She's trying to get the money worked out. And at the end of last episode, her friend, who's been kind of cleanly laundering the money for her, told her that the Empire is really going to come down on the banking system, so it's going to be hard to launder money. So he introduces a fellow named Davos, who's a bit skeevy, I think is a good term to use. So we have that going on, and then Luthen, who was not in the last episode, is back. And we don't see him very long, but what we do see is very powerful, and we get some more insights into his character. So after remember the old gentleman died last week. After his body goes away, Cassian and Kino have the conversation about how many guards are on the level. And they start to really plot. Now, Andor has been trying to figure out a basic plan anyway, how to escape. He's been working on something with the pipes in the restroom area, and they realize that the elevator is not electrified like the floor of the facility is, which is how they punish them. So they've been cobbling this thing together as best they can. And now the old man has died, so there's going to get a replacement on the floor, so they know that the L is going to be dropping down. This is the opportunity they need. Kino is on board now. So Andor, and they also realize they're not really watching them that closely because they just use the fear of the floor, and they also know that they're very undermanned as far as the guards go. So Andor busts the pipe. Prisoners start a fake fight as the L starting to come down with the new prisoner on it, and they take this opportunity and storm the elevator. Now, they do go to electrify the floor, and Kino tells them to hop up on the tables, and many of them do, but the water has run out on the floor now. So that actually shorts out their ability to shock the prisoners. They overwhelm the guards. And now it's full-on prison rebellion, but you're talking 5,000 or so men And they make their way around the prison, letting everybody know, because the word has been getting out about the level 2 incident, but it does take a minute. So, and it's a big facility, and word doesn't get easily. But they're making their way around the facility, getting the other prisoners on board. And again, 5,000 men, and there's only 12 guards per floor. So those aren't good odds for the guards. And the shootouts are really good. It's the white halls and the lasers, and it's a very appealing aesthetic. Now, Cassian and Kino make their way to the control room, which is manned by some beta males who, apparently don't care that they're what they're doing, keeping political prisoners, because there's nothing worse than a beta male with a little bit of power. They shut down the prison facility. They shut down the floors. No one is getting fried. The guards are huddling in a closet, scared to do anything because they're overwhelmed. They're probably going to get killed by the Empire anyway, but they're just taking their chances. It's a roll of the dice. So they get up to the main platform. Everybody's on the ring. Kino actually makes a very good speech as well. And he's basically feeding the lines out that Andor fed to him. I would rather die trying to take them down than to give them what they want. I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well die trying to escape than die slowly in the service of this facility and the Empire. They shut the whole thing down. The hydraulics, which is what runs the facility, so it's dead. And they all make it up to the platform, and it's just all water. So they have to jump into it's pretty deep, far jump, and then they have to swim ashore. And they get up there, and Kino stops. And Andor's like, "What are you doing?" And Kino's like, "I can't swim." He went through all this to free his fellow inmates, and he himself lacks the ability to escape. I think he probably could have managed. Someone probably would have helped him ashore. But it is a fairly tragic moment for this character, who, like I said, has been Andy Serkis just gave an amazing performance of this. Back on Coruscant, we have Mon Mothma meeting with Tay, that's the banker fellow, and Davo Skulden, which is a fantastic name. The actor plays the part very well as well. He comes off as slimy and gross. She doesn't like him. He makes a point of saying, "I was here once. I was hoping I'd be invited back." And he talks about great wealth and the freedom to be free of other people's opinions. So we know something about it. We know he's a skeevy dude. And so he tells Mon, "Yes, I can help you, but..." And Mon's like, "Well, let me give you some money." And he's like, no. She's like, "I don't want to owe you." And he's like, "Perhaps a bit of, how did he phrase it? Discomfort, maybe the price." And he reveals that he wants his 14-year-old son to be introduced to her daughter. Now, on their planet, they marry at about age 15, and it's an arranged marriage. Well, Mon is not on board with this and very unceremoniously invites him to leave. And he's like, "That's the only truthful thing you've said." And she is in a pickle, though, and we don't know how this is going to go. Will she whore out her daughter so that she can get money for the rebellion? Wow, that's an unpleasant choice. But a lot of unpleasant choices have to be made in this thing. Then we hop to the last part of this, and this is an interesting part. The mole. Luthen gets a communication to be at a meeting in the Coruscant's lower levels. And what we find out is the redheaded mustached fellow working at the ISB is a double agent working for Luthen. His name is Lonnie Jung, and he works with Dedra Meero. Meero has devised a plot. They have captured rebel pilots and a ship. And their plan is to put him adrift with essentially a distress so the rebels come in and they can make some more connections about stolen parts and all that stuff. And he needs to reveal this to Luthen. So he also wants to get out of the business. They're down in the lower levels, and this is a really well shot scene as well. Very dark, sinister. You feel the stakes that are going on here. Luthen talks to him about the birth of his daughter. Obviously, Luthen's been watching him, and that's in the context of their conversation. He's not congratulating him on the birth of his daughter. He's saying, "You have a liability that I can exploit." It's dark. And Lonnie wants to leave. Luthen's like, "Well, you made a vow. You're not out. I need heroes. And the information you've given me is valid." And Luthen also reveals that he's willing to let it's a 50 or so team that's going to attack this planet that's now in danger. It's a trap. It's a trap. And Luthen's like, well, what better way to make the Empire not worry about us than to let them have their little victory? And 50 men are going to die. And he's willing to make that sacrifice. Ouch. So that they can have their umbrella of secrecy. The little bit of the Empire doesn't know we're here that they have left, which is shrinking exponentially. And Lonnie's kind of freaked out about this. And he's like, well, what have you sacrificed? And Luthen gives a very good speech, which ends with calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance of inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. He knows he's set on this path. He's been here for 15 years. It's a dream that he will never realize, and he knows that. A sunrise that he will never see, he calls it. And it's a very emotional scene. Again, you learn more about Luthen. Basically, he's given up everything for this rebellion. And the sacrifices he has to make, he knows are bad. He knows he's doing bad things for the right reason, which is an argument that has to be made when you're trying to rectify your conscience with what you're doing, or even realize that your conscience is dead so that you can accomplish the greater goal. We hear these themes an awful lot these days. And the show ends with Cassian and Melchi, who is also from Rogue One, making their way across this kind of desolate landscape. They've made it to shore, but you can see the airships looking for them in the background. And that's the episode. Sacrifice is a big theme of this one. Kino sacrificing himself to free the prisoners because he knows he's going to die and they're going to die otherwise. The possibility of Mon sacrificing her daughter to fund the rebellion? Yikes. And then Luthen talking about the sacrifices that have to be made, the terrible sacrifices that have to be made for the rebellion. And the performances in this episode were fantastic. Everybody, even Andor, who I don't care too much about. And I've seen one of my friends over on Flaccid Phoenix, Don and Gator, talked about this show really shouldn't even be named Andor. Andor is a character on the show. It should be called something else, anything else. Rise of the Rebellion, something else, because he's a character on the show, but he's not the central character on the show. He's just a character on the show, but that's okay. That's okay. It's been great, and I'm looking forward to. We have 2 more episodes. They could have closed it out with this one, and that would have been pretty satisfactory. So we'll see what we get in the next couple. Hopefully, they're able to keep this momentum going, and we don't end on a sadder, dour, quiet note as the show began. I like this pace. It's been good. And the performances. I'm sad that Andy Serkis isn't going to be there again because he's been great. But we'll see what we get in the next couple episodes. Watch the show. This is probably the best show that you're not watching right now. Anyway, for now, this has been Roman of the Empire signing off. Please like and subscribe the channel because God knows we do need the help. Be kind.